It's a pleasure to have you join us on another episode of the program. I'm Okbayemi Owosheni. We start off with business news. Nigeria is set to receive the balance of $1.05 billion from a $3.3 billion African Export-Import Bank loan backed by oil revenues by the end of May, aiming to rejuvenate the economy and enhance the availability of foreign currency in the domestic exchange market. The Senior Executive Vice President for Finance Administration and Banking at African Bank, Dennis Denia, said the bank has verified the crude availability and will release the balance next month. This amount is the balance of a $3.3 billion prepayment scheme planned by the African Export-Import Bank, which will be repaid through crude oil shipments from the National Petroleum Company. The federal government has announced that testing has commenced on the 700 megawatt Zungu hydroelectric power plant ahead of the evaluation of electricity from the facility to the national grid. It also disclosed that the $1.3 billion project located in Niger State had been connected to the national grid, in contrast to claims in some quarters that the plant was not connected to the grid. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabo, disclosed this while providing answers to industry questions contained in a document released in Abuja by Special Advisor on Strategic Communications and Media Relations, Bolaji Sunji. Now located in Kaduna River near the town of Zungu in Niger State, the plant is to generate 2.64 billion kilowatt-hour of electricity annually, meeting nearly 10% of Nigeria's domestic energy needs. We'll take a break now and be back with the latest happenings in the corporate world. Welcome back. Nigerian banking group FBN Holdings plans to seek shareholder approval this month to raise up to 300 billion naira through a public sharing offering or private share sale in Nigeria or abroad. The holding company, which owns First Bank, one of Nigeria's top lenders, said it will ask shareholders for permission to raise the funds at a meeting set for April 30th, 2024. Shares of Nigerian-based FBN Holdings, which hit a high of 43.95 naira in March, last traded at 30.50 naira on the Nigerian bourse. Now, a recapitalization is looming in Africa's biggest economy and most populous nation after the central bank last month announced minimum capital requirement for lenders to try to get banks to play a bigger role in boosting economic growth. International Beverage PLC, a beverage producing company in Nigeria, has announced the appointment of Marianne Reginald Ukwoma as its new company secretary and legal counsel of its board of directors effective from March 27, 2024. Now, according to the statement, Regina Ukwoma brings to the role about 2 decades of extensive corporate experience in regulatory and compliance management, human resources management, corporate governance and strategy, company secretariat and legal advisory services, stakeholders management, and community engagement. She obtained a doctorate degree in comparative company law and industrial relations. She has also earned a master's degree in comparative company law and industrial relations, both from the Rivers State, according to the company. She is also an associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries, Administrators, and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, as well as an associate of the Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators. We'll go on a break now, but when Money Matter returns, we'll be discussing CBN stopping the use of foreign currencies as collateral for Naira loans. Don't go away. Welcome back. The Central Bank of Nigeria has written to all banks in the country to stop the use of foreign currencies as collateral for Naira loans. The circular was signed by the Apex Bank's Acting Director, Banking Supervision Department, Adetono Adedeji, and uploaded to his website on April 8, 2024. The Apex Bank said it had observed the use of FCY by bank customers as collateral for Naira loans and therefore prohibits it with immediate effect. The CBN maintained that it's on a mission to ensure that there is adequate foreign exchange in the market, even as the Naira is being strengthened. Now, according to the Apex Bank, using foreign currency denominated collaterals for Naira loans is prohibited, except where the foreign currency collateral is Eurobonds issued by the federal government of Nigeria or guarantees of foreign banks, including standby letters of credit. CBN disclosed that for the avoidance of doubt, the attention of the general public should be drawn to the provisions of the CBN Act of 2007, which states that the currency notes issued by the bank shall be legal tender in Nigeria for the payment of any amount. Furthermore, the Act stipulates that any person who contravenes this provision is guilty of an offence and shall be liable on conviction to a prescribed fine or 6 months imprisonment. Well, joining me to discuss this further is Economist Okafor. Thank you for joining me on the program, Mr. Okafor. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has written to all banks in Nigeria to stop the use of foreign currencies as collateral for Naira loans. Now, what do you think are the primary motivations behind the Central Bank of Nigeria's decision to prohibit the use of foreign currencies as collateral for Naira loans?
Good afternoon, Bayemi, and good afternoon to all our viewers across the globe. Let me wish all our Muslim faithful Ramadan Kareem. In response to your question, I want to state here that the decision of CBN currently seems to be part of the things we've been yearning for in domesticating the affairs that has to do with our currency. You quite asked yourself the question that even for countries that we have stronger currency over, do we use our Naira as collateral? The answer is no. Before now, we one way or the other popularized the use of dollar over our currency. And I think the CBN is having it in the right direction in such a way that if you need to collect loan with our currency, even if you have dollars in your domiciliary account, convert it to Naira, so that CBN can have access to it as an inflow and definitely use the equivalent of it as your collateral to Naira. So it's a right step for me in the right direction because we need to start believing in our currency, domesticating the affair so that we can have it stronger and stronger the more.
Okay, so you just mentioned that it's a move in the right direction for the Central Bank of Nigeria. But then we also know that there are businesses in the country that use foreign exchange, that's dollars for their transactions, for most of their transactions. So now, how might this policy affect businesses and individuals who frequently use foreign currency denominated collaterals for obtaining Naira loans?
Yeah, for those that have been doing that before now, they have only been catching on the lapses that CBN created themselves. I'm sure you will not go outside this country for those of us that travel. Even when we have opportunity to use our currency, they will tell you that it's either you use their own currency or you bring in dollar, convert it to their own currency and expend it whichever way you want to be. So if there have been any organization, individual that has actually been, capitalizing on the lacuna created by CBN before now, I think they just have to fill in the gap and look for a way to plug in into the new policy of CBN by making sure that if you need to carry out any business transaction, your DOM account is still there. We are not touching it. All you need to do is to pull out the fund from your DOM account, convert it to Naira, fund your Naira account, and use that as collateral for whatever that you might need to do, because DOM account majorly will be for your transaction that you need to do offshore, that is outside the shore of this country, possibly to buy your material or buy your equipment that is needed. But each time you need to carry a transaction locally, we want a situation where we domesticate it and be able to spend our currency so that we can give it some boost. So you can imagine when you have those dollars in your DOM account and you withdraw some, inject it into the system with the single window that the CBN is trying to actually work with, then you can have some injection into the system. And with that, we can have more supply of this foreign exchange for other people that might need it for their own business transaction that needs to be carried out. But I feel that those that have been doing it before now have the opportunity to capitalize on the gap. And now that CBN has woken up to their responsibility, it's just for them to key in so that we can together grow our nation as patriotic citizens.
Okay, so one of the reasons the CBN gave is that it wants to ensure adequate foreign exchange in the market while strengthening the Naira. Now, how effective do you believe this policy will be in achieving these objectives that the Apex Bank has stated?
Yeah, well, it is a function of the player themselves, how they intend to make the policy work. You see, I've said it times with that number on several forums that our problem is really not about policy, it's about implementation of the policy because there are individuals that have this idea of having personal gain. And why is this always happening? Because there are no consequences, even when you discover that someone has actually beat down the policy that you have actually promoted for the growth of the economy. So with this, it's not about the CBN bringing out the policy. It's about monitoring to all the players, within all the players that are actually carrying this out, and also have consequences that with those that intend to deviate from the set principle to strengthen the currency. So for me, I have confidence in it. It's about the CBN, who are the regulators, monitoring that the implementation of that particular thing is to letter, and anyone that is found deviating from the set rule is punished and have the consequences, so that that will serve as deterrent. The challenge we've been having as a country is that there are no consequences for any wrong action. So that on its own build up on other people to carry it out. So once you discover there are consequences for anyone deviating from the set policies through the implementation, it will serve as deterrent to others, and we can see through even with the policy that they are bringing on board.
You just mentioned that that is the problem, but monitoring it. So what strategies or what policies do you think the Apex Bank can further put in place to ensure that all of those regulations achieve their major objectives?
I think it's high time my CBN come up to know that the world is revolving, and information technology is the other to go. Technology is what you can write on. At the back and corner of whatever you required, it exposes transparency. I'm sure you know before now everybody was talking about crypto and the other, and it's about building a technology around what you set to achieve. And once you are able to ride on that, it gives you those things that are coming in, those things that are going out, and you're able to track the activity of the player in the sector. So the strategy I intend that the government will apply with some of these policies that are coming on is to ride on technology so that you can reveal out the policy. So when you are penalizing individual, it's obvious that everybody is saying that a particular player in the sector is actually deviating from the set rule as purported by the CBN. And also, there should be feedback mechanism in which you are able to track the progress that you are able to make. But this cannot be achieved by the manual processes that we have been having before now. But we need to embark on more on technology, evaluating the problem, exposing the result, and also having feedback on the progress that they have achieved. So technology plays a major role in the implementation of the policy that they are actually bringing on board.
Okay, so in the past few months, we've seen the CBN roll out different monetary policies to strengthen the Naira, one of which is even increasing the monetary policy rate twice. So now, how do you think that this particular policy fits into the Central Bank of Nigeria's efforts to manage foreign exchange reserves and stabilize the currency generally?
Yeah, it will go its long way if it is effectively implemented. You see, some of us looked at some of the policy monetary policy in terms of increasing the interest rate and the likes is to stim the economy. And I know afterward, this will definitely be controlled with the reduction and the strength of dollar to Naira. Also, this particular policy in place that we're talking about of domiciliary accounts not being used against it, it give more booster to our currency. So you discover that as many that intend to carry out using dollar, we can now make use of the word to say, rather than dollarizing our economy, we are nairalizing it, and everyone goes about with that particular. So when you have dollars in your hand and you are not saying what to use it for, as against what you used to have in those past, you will not be taught that the only place where you need to spend that currency is outside the shore of this country when you travel out. But whatever you need to carry out within the country will be more of a Naira, and that on its own will strengthen the currency. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you heard that the president is aware of the challenges in terms of inflation, interest rate, and all hands are on deck. I want to believe to make sure that that actually come on, but because that impacts more on businesses. And as we speak, we need to revamp our production arm. And the only way is to have an effective monetary policy that will have a single digit interest rate for us to have good lending, because debt is one of the source of financing that an average businessman relies on. And in as much as we can reduce this to single digit, the economy will be better for it in terms of increasing our production arm.
Okay, so the circular mentions specific exceptions such as Eurobonds issued by the federal government of Nigeria or guarantees of foreign banks. So now, why do you think these exceptions were made, and how might this influence the effectiveness of the policy?
The two instruments that was mentioned by CBN is actually regulated by them. So they have a deeper understanding, like the Eurobond, the federal government Eurobond is having placement for people to invest, for them to actually, so they have understanding of so much in that particular area, and no outside player plays in there. So they have a guarantee, knows the maturity period of some of those things, and have the idea of the value that they are actually talking about. So the exception of that is to say we are taking care of this particular thing because we consider it more as investment, which the federal government of themselves have actually floated for people to have a buy-in in. And for the one that has to do with the outside shore guarantee, there is a platform at which the central bank of every country play, and they have understanding of some of the offshore investment that they have, that they can that they have security over and confidence over. So these two are clearly exempted because CBNs have a harmful control over some of these things because they initiated it, and they can actually speak to it in terms of tenor, in terms of the value, and in terms of maturity of some of those things.
Before I let you go, Mr. Okwade, you've commended the CBN for the implementation of this policy. But then, do you foresee any potential unintended consequences or challenges arising from the implementation of this particular directive?
The only challenge I have is if the regulators refuse to monitor the activities, and you have the funny element within the sector trying to beat them over for their personal gain. That's when you start having challenges over it. You know, before now, we challenged the last administration of CBN not meeting up to responsibility of even providing this foreign exchange to those that are actually in need of it. Rather, when you go to the bank, you have so much bureaucracy that will not allow you to achieve that when their major aim is to carry out that. And you'll be referred to BDCs and you ask yourself, where are they getting this from? So CBN on their own has actually regulated that to know what they're actually floating out, even to the BDC. And I think there is a collaboration that they've tried to establish by having a platform at which they can monitor some of those things. Gone are those days where you just come in to CBN to get some of these foreign exchange without having a trail. Now you have the KYC, you have to provide the need for those foreign exchange that you are actually getting. And I think these are policies that we have before now, but are not just being followed through. People just decide to bypass some of those things for their personal gain. But with this, that the CBN is resuscitating, I feel if they're able to follow through, the challenges would definitely be minimal. And if they are able to introduce technology to show the transparency of the operation of this foreign exchange, we will definitely have the growth. I just have this to say that foreign exchange plays a major role in the development of our economy, in the fact that we are yet to see production of some of the things that we can even produce locally. So pending the time that government will work on security for business people to move around and have those things worked on. A lot of people will require this to bring in machinery so that the raw materials that we are blessed with can start having processes which will definitely create employment, people have access to borrowing to improve on their business, and the economy on its own will grow even on a larger scale.
Well, let's hope the Apex Bank, like you said, will give the foreign exchange to those that are truly need the foreign exchange. Economics Olusegun Okunade, thank you for lending your thoughts on the program. Well, that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for watching. I'm Okpeyemi Owosheni. See you next time.